So why did you start using in the first place? Like, did you never have power, or how did you start using? Like, when did you start using? What did you just go right into the drugs, or what was the entry point of your using?
Yeah, it's actually a good question for me, because a lot of people, it has to do with trauma and stuff like that. But for me, it wasn't. Well, I guess you could call it trauma in a sense, but we moved around a lot as kids, and I'm a big-time 5-pin bowler, so I was bowling all the time, and we lived in a small town, or a pretty small city of Oshawa, and there was one bowling alley. So we move around in the city, and there was always people at the bowling alley who knew me because I was the best bowler in the town, so they would become my friends. And then we moved to Ottawa, a much bigger city, and there's lots of bowling alleys. So, and I'm also 16 at this point, so rather than being liked for being a good bowler, I was disliked because I was stealing all the awards and stuff. So I was put in a position where I had to make friends without having my bowling tool to do it, and I didn't know how to make friends, right? And I had smoked weed once or twice before that. I had drinking a few times. No allergy, no obsession.
What age were you?
16, 17 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so no allergy, no obsession at that point, but I went to, after the third time moving in Ottawa, instead of trying to make friends the hard way, I went to the smoking section and bought a couple grams of weed for some guys who smoked weed, and we smoked at school. And unfortunately for me, well, fortunately in the long run, but unfortunately for me, the guys who smoke at school do other stuff on the weekends, right? So I got involved in this crowd that started doing shrooms and acid and partying on the weekend. And again, I would say a year, maybe 3/4 of a year before I believe I crossed the line where there was no turning back. I needed drugs and alcohol to function or to have a good time, what I thought, right? The only good time I knew at that point was after a year of doing it was with drugs and alcohol. So it became, it went from being just a tool to make friends to a tool to have fun to, I don't know what else to do with my life.
And did you know that at that time? Like, do you think you could identify it? Like, this owns me?
Yeah, I thought I was choosing to. I thought it was a choice of mine right up until maybe 27 in that first treatment center, right? I moved back to Oshawa, where I came from, because I knew it was getting bad. And I remember one time my best friend, he's still the best friend I ever had, he's still out there using, but he said to me, we always said, well, we're going to take a little break. We're going to take a little break this weekend. We're not going to use this weekend. He said, you know you're an addict when you say you need to take a break, because normal people don't say they need to take a break. They just take a break, or they don't have to say that, right? And that hit me in the head, right? It sunk in. I'm like, wow, maybe I'm an addict, right? And I'm like, okay, well, let's go drink some more.
And how old were you
then? About it. 27, 26. 20, maybe 25 when he made that joke, but by the time it's 27, I could really see it that my life was unmanageable because of drugs and alcohol, and I couldn't control my life. I couldn't live without drugs, but I couldn't live with drugs either, right? So I needed to do something, so I moved back to Oshawa, the classic geographical cure, they call it, and fortunately, like we talked about earlier, I brought me with me, so the problem came, and even though the drugs weren't there at first, they eventually showed up. They showed up. I found them, and I was just as bad in a year in Oshawa as I was 7 years in Ottawa. Right?
And so